AIS Play รวมความบันเทิงคุณภาพเปิดความสนุกทุกที่ทุกเวลา
It was South Korea that had a few games more. Remember that they're coming in seed 1. Now, they did trade games in the round robin at that time, so it's going to be both of them coming on the stage, and we finally get to see which one has studied each other the best.
Yeah, it was a three-way tie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It was a bit of a ruckus over in the, as you said, the bracket. Yeah, there was 6 teams, of course. Each one of the brackets had a different number of teams. Kazakhstan had 2 in theirs, for example. That was the smallest. And then, of course, the one with Korea, China, was definitely a bigger one.
One big thing to remember is that with the amount of competition in that one, of course, remember Hong Kong didn't make it this far in. And they had probably the toughest games going up against the Republic of Korea. Please go back, watch the qualifiers if you can. A lot of them were incredible. I thought that it was high tempo for the teams that didn't get to make it here, which says a lot for the teams that did make it. For the People's Republic of China being on the stage, getting some tough games across, having a lot of lessons learned. Remember, they brought in a few players, Mako and CA, not a part of RNG, so a lot of the players really mixed in, having to learn each other's tendencies. Good lessons for the stage today.
Yeah, big deal for them. Of course, Coach Aaron behind them as well. You know, Aaron's a guy who has just been through the loop, really. You know, through esports for a long time, and I feel like he's probably the perfect person if you're looking at like a Chinese representative to put a team of misfits together. Of course, they're high-level misfits, but of course, you know, putting this team together, he's the perfect person.
Yes, exactly. But remember, looking across the stage of South Korea, a lot of people strung in together. Now, most notably, of course, on the top side, Keen, you got Peanut, or Score if he shows himself in the tournament. That would be wonderful to see as we're going straight in towards the rosters. This one's going to be China.
Yes, it is. Top lane is going to be Let Me, jungle MLXG with Xie in the mid lane, Uzi down in AD carry with Mako his support.
Now, they smashed Kazakhstan in the first game of today, if you were able to see it. But of course, MLXG getting the MVP was interviewed, and they made a point to say that their major point of preparation was for this game, going up against South Korea. If they can take this one, they have a great chance of taking first in the group.
I mean, really, it has to be. These are going to be the probably biggest contenders, I reckon. Vietnam could be a bit of a curveball in this group, but of course, you've got to be looking to Korea as number 1, number 2, whatever you want to call it. I know there's a bit of a hubbub right now. It's like, who's the best region? Well, right here, this is going to be another stepping stone towards that moniker.
That's why if you're looking at towards a player right now, it's Uzi. Uzi on People's Republic of China is the star player to watch play the game. That being said, in the LPL, Xie had some incredible performances, was a phenomenal mid laner in what was an upsetting, or at least regular season for him. But that being said, that's why I would love to see how they match up against the Korean team, because Keen had a rookie season, rookie of the year, honestly. If you were to look at globally, because he is by far the best top laner in the world. If you were to see his performance in Rift Rivals, of course, if you were to see his performance in the current regular season, he's somebody that you have to really watch on, because he has such a strong champion pool. Quinn is a champion that I would immediately point a finger to and say that he wants to be able to take a massive control in the lane.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually like when you look at Keen, you're talking about him being, you know, a rookie top laner, but also being exceptionally strong. I reckon he's probably the most, if not one of the most consistent players on that team right now. You know, you look at the mid lane, you're just like, just unkillable Demon King Faker. But, I mean, right now, SKT didn't even make playoffs coming out of the LCK, so it's just like, if you're looking at consistency right now, you're probably looking towards the top side of the map.
100%. That's why if you saw the player right in front of you, Let Me and MLXG, I would love to see them try and counteract the pressure on the top side of the map with Peanut and Keen. Just because if there is one point of weakness in the Korean side, the fact that, of course, in the qualifiers, Peanut didn't have the best synergy. That's why this time around we're going to be bringing in Score. It's Keen, Score, Faker, Ruler, and Core JJ rounding up the lineup.
Yeah, Ruler and Core JJ, of course, have a lot of time together on the Rift, so the bottom side should be pretty solid. There will be Uzi and Mako facing them down in this matchup, at least in the first time they're going to be facing each other in the group stage. And I don't know, Uzi's gone on record, it's like, if you had to play over support, who would it be? And he said Mako. So if he's got the person he wants by his side right now, so we'll see if they can take down that bottom.
It always depends on how they want to play the lane, because a lot of the time, especially if you saw the last game, playing the Kaisa and Alistar bottom lane, they're obviously team fight phase of it. If you're going across Ruler and Core JJ, you cannot just look past the laning phase as they did in the previous game. They will try and nail you down in the laning phase, and they'll have the preparation, at least the backing of Faker, who will likely pick the Galio if it's given to him. So a lot of focus is going to be towards the bottom lane, but I feel like if the top side gets tilted into Keen's favor, that looks undoubtedly difficult for China, because then you're going to have the top lane pile on and down for you, and then the bottom lane you'll have what seems to be a good, strong three-man bot side focus. So I want to see how level 1 of the league starts.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, these are just all-star rosters coming out from the People's Republic of China versus the Republic of Korea right here, and it will just be sparks flying in every single lane. There's no weak link. You know, that's the big deal right here. I mean, these are the tournament favorites coming forward, and we're fully expecting both of these two to make it out of the group stage.
Yeah, and honestly, because I want to get right into the matchups here. For me, it's going to be about MLXG versus...
Oh, it's all the jungles for you.
I know, I love the jungles, but this time around, because at least their styles are majorly contrasting.
I'll give it to you,
And the qualifiers, we got to see MLXG versus Peanut, and I was like, oh, okay, that's going to be wild. We're going to be seeing a lot of hectic nonsense. This time around, MLXG versus the methodical, surgical score. He's going to be incredibly smart around playing pressure-wise, looking for counter ganks. It's going to be on MLXG to play a little bit of a slower game. Yeah. Try and be undetected early on in the game.
He's a very different beast, but I do think our Rift Ride with MLXG showed that he can compete with that type of style. For now, though, we're into Champions Set with China and Korea. It will be Varus and Rise, the first two bands from China, and then on the red side, Aatrox and Camille. Going back to something I'm a little bit more used to in terms of the meta hit, Raz.
Yeah, and Varus is a pick that you have to take off the board in 8.15, 8.16. A strong bottom lane, no matter if it goes Comet or lethal tempo. So that does open up the Kaisa a little bit for China down the ranks. They can then just kind of like say, yeah, you don't have to actually worry about the bottom lane anymore in first pick. I want to pick Rakan. I think Rakan is a very strong bottom lane and allows Ruler and Core JJ to go towards the Xayah Rakan matchup. Alistar being banned does open it up a little bit. That being said, if you pick up the Rakan, then it opens up the other team to go towards the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, this is actually super important around the bottom side of the map, just to open up these first couple of picks right here. As you just said, Alistar, very strong pick into Rakan. That one now taken away here from Korea, puts China in a bit of a bind.
Akali is open though. So Rives is a major counter pick towards the Akali in the laning phase, but LeBlanc is still open. Yeah. There we go, Akali immediately getting locked in. But Faker is an incredible, in fact, he started his career just nailing players down on the LeBlanc. I want to see right here in the best of one, him just lock it in the first phase of the pick ban.
I mean, this is the thing with Fake, you know, everyone thinks a bit of the big flashy plays, but this guy's the innovator as well in the mid lane, you know. If anyone's going to have a pick to counter out an Akali, a new pick coming forth in the mid lane, it will be Faker. I remember when he was playing AP Tahm Kench in solo queue for some reason. Who knows whether that's going to come through, but I definitely think that, as you said, LeBlanc could be a massive pick from here, but the bottom lane are going to be confirmed here by Korea. It's going to be Tahm Kench and Ashe.
Next best thing when it comes down to bottom lane pressure when the Varus is locked down is to go towards the Ashe. Now I want to see if Uzi and Mako still goes towards the Kaisa focus, just because it's incredibly difficult to look down Tahm Kench and Ashe and not just get pushed in and lose your tower at 10 minutes. That's a major focus here. China needs a strong bottom lane to push out, or need to think about just all-inning on their top side. Because this is actually very difficult now if you're China. Now you've locked in a Kaisa that is very likely going to get pushed in repeatedly, and Akali just has bad pushing matchups. So Korea has a very intelligent draft. Right. That being said, the Rakan locked in means that they have a lot of engage opportunities.
Yeah, the Birdman comes in alongside Kaisa. I mean, you know, Uzi is not a man to turn down, you know, when a gauntlet is being thrown in front of him. It's like, heck yeah, lock me in the Kaisa, give me a playmaking support. I got Mako alongside me. Arguably the best, if not top 2 Rakan in the entire LPL league right here. So, I mean, bottom lane going to be super spicy down there. We're going to actually see a Galio come forward from Korea. Expect that one to go into the mid lane for Faker.
Yeah, so it's going to go towards him. That being said, I want to see the laning phase between the two, because typical laning phase between Akali and the Galio is that the Galio does get pushed in a little bit. but it's going to be very difficult for the Akali to ever actually escape a gank. To kill him, of course, because he's going to be going to the resolve tree. To escape a gank because he has the taunt, so immediately you can see Xie going towards cleanse is a great indicator of how that lane is going to be playing out. And if Akali ever roams out of the lane, then of course there's going to be a Galio to follow. So great front to back so far coming out of the Korean line.
Oh yeah, big fan of the Galio matchup. It's definitely still in its infancy, seeing a lot of players fail in that match, but also the tactics are there. You know, the setup is 100% there, and as you're alluding towards the jungle as well, score is going to be a major part of that mid lane matchup. The 2 versus 2 in the mid lane and jungle will be something to keep an eye on.
I'm immediately looking towards the Kindred pick, just because you already have a Galio, a Tom Kench. You could very easily go towards another tank top laner, but you can already see from the second phase bans alone Cho'Gath and the Ornn that they're already trying to nail that away from Let Me, so maybe they go towards the carry pick. But the reason why I say Kindred is because by far strongest jungler, which is why immediately getting banned out by China is the last match.
Yeah, Kindred gone, Jace ban, taking away a lot of these playmakers. And of course, Let Me, everyone knows he's a tank player on the top side, trying to take away as many of those as possible. But, you know, something like a Mundo's still up there for him as well. Let Me's not going to be too phased from that, just a lot of the utility picks taken away in terms of the engage. And we'll have a Gragas here from Korea.
Or Gnar, honestly. Remember, now his role is just to pick blind. He doesn't know what he's going up against, and he knows that the enemy jungler on the Gragas, mid laner, Galio, there's a lot of dive potential, so he just needs to think about saving himself. That being said, that might be an Akali top lane.
It could be an Olaf top.
There's a lot of things it could be, but remember, Olaf has to be jungle.
It has to, yeah.
That is literally the only jungle. So you just picked the only wrong option.
I picked the only, out of all the right answers, I picked the
I respect the hustle, though. I respect it. But yeah, Akali
might put this in my mind.
Akali might go top lane, which is great. One thing to take note of is no mana cost there, so if you're Republic of Korea, you want to pick up a top lane. You want to try in something that has sustained damage that can consistently stay in lane. Now, GP is not that.
GP is the opposite of that, right?
Is the opposite. I was thinking more of a Gnar pick here as well.
Yeah.
You might have the all-in against you, because Akali might be able to take the all-in, especially post 6. But then you can actually set up the dives pretty easily. But this just showcases that Republic of Korea having an eye on towards the bottom lane. So it's going to be Kai'Sa and the Rakan that is a major target, as GP, once he pings 6, can send down the ultimate right down there.
As you said, bot lane focused here. And also, if you're going to give it over to anybody, I feel like the safest hands in the east right here, Keenan in the top lane, give him the gangplank, he's probably going to be able to get out of the laning phase fine.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, this is definitely a bit of a curveball coming out here from China. We'll see which lanes these get swapped up into in the end, because I fully expect it not to be a Rakan mid.
Now, they did make a mention that they have been putting in a lot of preparation for this specific game. So as we're taking a look at it, all right, it's getting locked in, of course, there we go, that they've had that prep towards Let Me. Now, Let Me, of course, he already made a mention that he is a tank top laner, facilitator in a lot of cases, but he always does comes out in the regular season that he's like, hey, I can play chase, I can play carry top. I can take a bullet, just give it to me, and I can at least lead you towards victory before we head in towards the bracket stage, the best of 3s. This time around, he's saying that you do have to respect me going up against the King. Major pressure on his shoulders. We'll have to see how that lane ends up going, and if MLXG can try and upset it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, China were playing fast and loose earlier today in our first match of the day, and Let Me actually had the highest damage in that game. But the fact that they're still looking towards this versus Korea is interesting to me as we take a look at the rosters once again and one more time before we head on to the Rift.
There you go. I mean, just taking a look at it. Korea's composition immediately. I love seeing the Predator Gragas if you're just about to get in.
Yes, we are on to the Rift. China versus Korea. This is the match that everybody wants to see. The first time they'll face up against each other will happen once more tomorrow before we get into the bracketed stage.
"30 seconds until minions spawn."
Oh my. Followed us over from China, Raz. The crowd chants coming forth right there.
Yeah, the fans at both ends definitely making the trip. Thank you guys for making it.
Heck yeah. It's a long trip, it's about a 5-hour plane ride. Even more than that if you try and swim.
I mean, at least you're saving some dollars.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But we'll save, you don't watch much LPL, our fan clubs over there, very well organized. You can see that they are ready for today.
Now, it's always tough gauging the level 1s between both of these teams. Now, Olaf, you'd usually say, well, Olaf, of course, give it level 1s towards them. But then you have the Tom Kench, a lot of damage that he can dish out. Ash Volley, of course, and just looking at the CC from both Galio, he's holding on to his ability, so he can just mark into the W. And as well as the Gragas, then you don't want to do it if you're China. Going into the enemy jungle, not being able to know if they're all standing in one bush, so makes it so it's much safer for both ends to just keep themselves hidden within their own camps. Nothing fancy for the best of them.
Yeah. Here, though, I am looking towards the top side of the map because if you've just tuned in, you didn't watch Champion Select. Yes, that's Nakali top lane, and yes, it's Let Me piloting it. And also both the junglers are pathing towards the top side, of course, on the bottom side, so Score's going to find himself up here shortly. So we'll see what happens in this 2 versus 2.
This has been a typical pathing of this patch recently, is that you just take your full top side camps and then you base and go towards the bottom side. It makes a lot of sense for both these junglers because they're both Predator junglers. You can take your full top side, get the most experience out of it, base, get your boots, and then you can make a path towards bottom lane. Of course, then you would be able to get the Predators online with boots enabled. So that should be the pathing here. Now, if you're Gragas and you don't know where Olaf is going to be pathing towards, then it's just safer to try and go for the most experienced pathing. Otherwise, it's a risk and you'll just lose out on experience. Because Olaf is just an experienced hawk. He just runs through the jungle like a hawk.
Yeah, he doesn't care, man. He'll keep going. He just needs to go for that recall because he's Olaf. You can see right now he's actually very, very healthy. Hasn't even burnt through his potions yet. First back coming through for the Gragas, but has picked up his boots. So Predator online, looking for some early gank slash counter ganks. He's also now level 3. Will be important for him, but yeah, really do like the Predator nowadays on that Gragas.
Take a look at this. ML actually didn't base, actually. So that means that he took his top side immediately, foregoing his red buff. Might end up getting a gank here. This is a great position to do that. He's already been seen here, so great pathing here from Score. Gets an eye on MLXG, so he either has to base or take the camps that are already here for him. So it's not a lot of efficiency just based off that first pathing anyways, just because Score got an eye on it.
Yeah. He will secure both crabs on both sides of the map, though, so a lot of extra experience going over to him as well as gold. And mid lane just kind of, going at it. I remember that Sheer has some pretty fond memories of this matchup versus Faker. Definitely not the first time these two have gone toe-to-toe.
He's always gotten the counter matchup. Historically, of course, 2017 Rift Rivals, you got the Lucian into the Galio this time. You got the Zoe. A few things change in this respect. You can see that the wave's not fully pushed in towards him, so Galio, Faker here has to watch out. It's great that he's gotten the Resolve primary tree. Very difficult to actually peel through all that resistance that he has just innately. But he does still have to watch out for if he ever pushes into the tower, because of course the gank pressure that Olaf has here, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble that GA can always look to throw out there. So always keep an eye on the matchups. Yeah,
the goal is survival, but as you said, because it's instantaneous, the resistance he can get from his statue of Durand, and also the fact he has the Aftershock instant resistances, great against a burst champion like Zoe, so we'll be able to survive a lot of this laning phase, you'd have to hope. There's currently even in farm, so he's totally fine in the mid lane. Top side though, Score looking to set a potential gank here onto Let Me Flash, and the E coming out there. Let Me try and jump away from this one, but has to turn around. I mean, his only hope is look for a trade, and that'll be first blood over to the jungle of Korea.
Just great timing there, because of course Faker had the push in the mid lane, so there's no opportunity for anyone to go up top side to help him out. And MLXG was coming out of base, so it's great. One opportunity, one window that Score was able to find, and he was able to net the kill.
Yeah, really, really nice stuff coming out from him. But again, Let Me just not burning his flash, realize the situation he was in, trying to double down on the play. But I mean, that's perfect. We were talking about this matchup, we were talking about like the gangplank and how he'll be dealing into an Akali match. I mean, it's just like, oh, I don't know about this one. But right now, the support coming in from the jungle is really just what has turned the matchup.
Take a look at this one. Quick and easy, of course. W is already gone from Akali, so there's no way to hide in obscurity at that point in time. One thing to make note of. GP just came back from base with Sheen, so he's also a Grasp Me and Dying GP, so he's actually really strong stats-wise up against the Akali. He should take the matchup here from this point forward. So very possibly, Score can make a repeat gank, But with the flash already being held by Let Me, he should be in a good position to now flash out of that if the gank does come topside. And he should have Olaf to at least put down a defensive ward, if not try and get a counter.
Yeah, I wonder actually, because Let Me's about to ding 6. The fact he just has, now he has priority over this wave, already has the CS advantage of 2 waves. And also MLXG is on the top side of the map right here. I believe Score's just been spotted by that ward. So the Sheen's going to help, yes, but there still is the burst potential coming from the card that's going to zone him away from these minions. I'm actually saying, no,
pick it back up.
No, easy recall for you. I'm going to try and put him to sleep, but he's going to make the heroic exit. I don't even know where he's gone.
There we go. He's just gone up out of there. And he's basing anyways. He's like, all right, get me out of this lane already. If he got chased down, then there was a possibility of a kill. The Sleeping Trouble Bubble did land. And of course, the exhaust was picked up. So it was just a good idea to expend your ultimate. Does mean, though, that Korea wants to actually look for a play in the bottom lane, that it's going to be pushed to the side for a little bit. No TP, no ultimate from the Galio means that he's not going to be a part of the play unless if he just walks down bottom lane alone.
Let me playing this matchup really well. Actually, this is the type of thing that I just want to watch the entire laning phase. If I could just keep the camera on the top side, I'd be a happy man, Raz.
You don't make that choice.
No, I don't, unfortunately, because the rest of the map counts a lot. But yeah, seeing this Akali in the top side, and actually just seeing those small interactions with him versus Keen is fascinating. The fact that you can see the CS advances being opened up here is, in part, the fact that Let Me knows this, at least knows how to play Akali in the top lane. He's playing around those bushes exceptionally well.
Yeah, I'm a little worried, though, because with how well he's been playing up in the top side, just excluding the gank that came through, you can already see the game starting to speed up in the bottom side of the map. So he's going to have to be a little bit more cognizant of what's happening bot side. He doesn't have his teleport enabled, so it's like maybe if he wants to be able to help his team, he's going to have to think about pushing out, rotating mid once that he gets that chance so his team can actually place down defensive wards bot side, because Republic of Korea has actually been putting a lot of pressure there. That being said, Score's top side, that's going to fake Team China out a little bit, giving them an idea that, hey, you know, we're contesting vision bot side, but actually we're making the gank happen top side.
Yeah, I'm not going to have vision over this one. The wave was pushing towards Let Me right there, so no vision, no knowledge lost or gained. But in the bottom side, yeah, I think that's really where we're expecting the next thing to happen, because 6 has just been picked up here by the Ashe. Down to around half right here, Ruler. But again, you've got Galio, the setup coming in from him. Gragas now happy towards bottom side. The Dragon is up. Top side has got the ultimate ready to go in the cannon barrage. And as you said, Let Me doesn't have his teleport. So if Korea wants to make a play, you probably bet a couple dollars that it would be in the bottom side.
So just let me paint a picture for you.
Okay.
All right. So immediately, of course, you can already see the Republic of Korea placing a lot of control wards in the bottom side of the map. Ashe, ping 6. You want to at least give her more opportunities, because bottom lane's going to be thinking that, you know, as long as we're not in a bad position, as long as we're hugging that turret, we should be fine, which is correct. That being said, you're going to put that on hold in the top lane.
Oh yeah, no one expects the Berserker coming out of the jungle with Predators. Keen goes with the orange right there. Double flash coming through, double ultimate, but that's still going to be a return kill. Keen playing that one exceptionally well.
Hugging his tower, really well done. Now, there is no opportunity to be able to get it done. That being said,
we didn't see it didn't happen.
It definitely happened. You can't run away from this one. That actually turns into a bottom lane tower immediately because he's committing to this one. So while on the top side, of course, you make the dive happen. Great. Akali may take the tower, but she goes into obscurity, so it's going to be Olaf. And you playing that long time around, you want to commit for the kill. Guess what? You're going to be losing a little bit of tempo yourself. So MLXG coming onto the map and seeing what is carnage in the bottom lane. Good choice from Score to, of course, pick the bottom lane apart, knows that he has the numbers advantage there.
Yeah, again, that play did happen. Well, we were just saying that. We were expecting it to happen. But top side, it was all a red herring. So getting that kill back in return evens up the matchup. And also, Akali was naturally winning through his CS. But we actually get to see what happened on the bottom side. Roller very low, but I expect it's just set up from barrel. Oh,
wow.
Wow, coming out from the Score, yeah. And Core JJ just getting the secure in there at the end.
Really just wanted to assist, man. He was like, unhand me, minions, please.
Get me out.
Get me the kill. It wasn't going to happen. So at least good setup from Score. The Gragas knocked back the ultimate into the body slam. Well done from him.
Smooth as you like. Didn't even need Roller in the end.
Yeah, he has 2 kills. Oh, you see a lot of times where a Gragas going, of course, with a new build, just going straight towards the AP. Now, here's the solo queue question I always have to ask myself. Because if you look, you see it in competitive play a lot of times, the Gragas will say, well, I mean, if I want to play smart, I will go straight towards tank afterwards. And then I'll just have the Runic Echoes. But with how many kills he's going, maybe he goes towards his own use. Yep, maybe I'm just putting that out there. Crota belt, perhaps. I've seen it in solo queue.
I've seen it. I've also seen it in the LPL. Though this is a score that we're talking about right here, so I would wager that he would probably go tank from here out. Maybe he'd go for another AP item from here, but I'm expecting tank from here on out.
It's just an exceptionally squishy composition that he's going up against, so that's why the opportunity arises here. MLXG's builds, you have to look towards how he usually builds out his Olaf, goes towards the black cleaver.
Yep.
So great mid game, but then atrocious later on. So just depends how he plays it out. But he's already eyeing once again bottom lane. I think the Ashe arrow is up and available. So just trying to set it up. Even if you don't find an opportunity bottom lane, control wards leading towards mid makes it so Zoe could be the next victim.
Thing is though, you know, RNG, which is the majority of this roster, like to strike fast and they like to strike hard. I think that a lot of international viewers will be very aware of that, but they're from the bottom side. A different dynamic here for Uzi. And of course Sheer in the mid lane. So obviously been a massive component over WE for the last year, the last two splits, you know, 2018. He's been one of the shining lights for that roster.
Yeah, coming out, of course, in 2017 was known as a great team player. Now just being known as a great individual player. So being slotted into this lineup, very natural. I know that there were some issues that they had during the qualifiers where a lot of times communication between him and the rest of the team was desynced. But coming into this game, back on the Zoe, I expect to see incredible plays. Remember, going up against Faker, has a great eye on the matchup, now has teleport enabled. So it all comes down to how he ends up sinking into the team once again, how the team fights end up going. It's very difficult playing team fights as a Zoe pick, especially if you're going straight front to back. So he has to be creative, finding an eye on the back line if he can get an angle with the trouble bubble.
I actually think that, you know, line of thinking can be extended to a lot of what Chan is running right here, because you're, again, as you said, you're running, I wouldn't say like a pure glass cannon, but this isn't the tankiest of rosters. Like, Olaf's probably the tankiest member on this team, but then you're looking at kind of semi-tankiness coming out of these players. You know, Maker's going to be coming forward, and hopefully Chan's going to be moving forward with him. And you're also going to be looking off of picks with the Zoe. So, like, if you're looking towards Korea right here, they have a much easier composition to execute.
100%. I think it's just an outright counter-pick composition, because if you look towards the composition of China, they just want to look to dive. There's a lot of dive threats in open-ended fights around Dragon or towards Rift Trails and Barons. Then they want to either look for flanks so they can immediately get straight towards Ruler. With how slow this game is playing out in the laning phase alone, 13 minutes laning phase. And for how drawn out control wars being well executed here from Korea, there's no opportunity for China to even get out of their own lanes, let alone look for a dive. And if they do, I mean, the teleports, double teleport here from Republic of Korea with the Gangplank ultimate and the Galio ulti. I just don't see it happening for China.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially how the early game has gone right now. I mean, Korea has just straight up stymied everything that China really wanted to do in the early game. MLXG got his first death of the game, didn't really manage to set up too much outside of that top lane dive, and even then Korea made a counterpunch. So it just makes, you know, China very skittish about making any play at all.
They were trying here, but great positioning from Core JJ. Sitting Bush didn't have the ward enabled for him. So
too watertight.
There we go. Got an eye on them when they're trying to look for a dive. And usually if you're a team like China here and you can't really get any plays happening in the lanes, you would look towards the Dragon. But Ocean Dragon, when all eyes are on it, is actually incredibly risky to look for. Gank opportunity here.
Uzi taking a lot of damage, and it's actually Mako going forwards. Finds the triple charm right there. Olaf coming into the bottom lane, Korea moving forwards, but actually needs to pay respect right now because Sheer looking for that bubble. We're putting Tam Kench to sleep, but not permanently. China look to disengage.
The big just kidding at the end of the day. Mako played that one out masterfully because he could have actually been bopped himself, but incredibly, you know, wistful getting here and out and there. The fact that Gragas couldn't find a great opportunity to throw on his own cast, so he just didn't. And when he tried to go for a body slam, we might see something on Ruler.
Oh, got the Gallo ultimate coming down. Mako caught right in the middle of that one. Double taunt coming through, and he is slapped down with a colossal smash. Faker still moving forwards, Flash coming through. Animation cancel on the Justice Punch. And Score looks for more. Blasters forward, but now he's under attack from Uzi. Takes the full Acapian Rain. In comes Sheer. He wants blood right now. Now a bit of shutdown. Axe cutting through from the Olaf. Sheer now corralling Faker, turning around, looking for the damage onto Uzi. Doesn't have the cooldowns, and Uzi will find his kill.
There we go. China made something out of nothing, and that's good enough. The fact that the dive ended up happening here from Korea, well done, but went way too deep. In fact, even chose the wrong target. Tried so hard to get on towards MLXG. Forgot that the AD carrier was right beside you. So take a look at this, because it started with China going straight on towards Ruler, but of course Tom Kench is going to whisk you away. There's no way you can get on top of him. Great kill on towards Mako, and then this is where the dive happens. Just look at Uzi. It's like just being forgotten, getting free damage on towards the Gragas, and no one was even touching him. So at the end of the day, Xie comes through and actually just makes the cleanup happen. It was a great start from Korea, poor ending from them.
Yeah, I mean, that was just massive value MLXG got out of both his Ragnarok and the Flash. It's almost as if when aggressing on him, they were just like, there's no way he has any of his summoners or cooldowns whatsoever. It's like, hello? Like, MLXG hasn't even visited the lane in the last 5 minutes.
Definitely mind when being there.
Yeah, I'm just a little shocked, you know, because this is not what I expected out of some of these individual players at the very least coming out of Korea. I mean, that's just straight up a Chinese player if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to the confidence that they had. If you look towards how Galio entered the fight, the immediate 70 resistances he had on towards him, he just looked very tanky at the Rod of Ages there. So the fact that they went for the dive and it started so well, they thought they could just go straight deep. Didn't happen, of course, but they can keep making the plays happen. The real worry here for People's Republic of China is the fact that, with as great as they are as players, the composition that they have does not enable them to get to the back as long as Tom Kench is there and as long as Galio has ultimate.
Yeah, there are compositional errors or problems coming in here for the Chinese roster, but it's small plays like this. You know, if that play never happened, I'd be like, I don't know, man. It just seems like Korea's play right now is just completely airtight. I don't see any way into this game. But by giving them an inch, they will take a mile. You know, like China as a team and China as a region they will keep coming at you until they open up an opening for themselves. You know, they won't just sit and wait like other regions. So by giving them something, it makes it easier for them to pry open the game.
So how I would have wanted to see it be happen is, you know, pushing down bottom lane, try and take the tower. Just think about the towers first if you're Korean this time around. Try and get deeper vision to the red side jungle. Just try and play it as slow as possible. That's been the KT way. You've seen them in the LCK.
Of course.
Try and play it slow. There are times in which you hubris, you can take these kills, and you might be able to. But remember, it's the best one. You take that one risk, and the game could turn against you.
100% can. What was my Faker called for the pause. We don't know what it is just yet. Our technicians are on stage trying to figure out what is the problem. We didn't know that Faker was tinfoil hat coming on. I saw him at the start of the game looking at his mouse. So I would wager, if I was a betting man, that maybe to prefer.
It's possible, it's possible. I mean, he's got it in the game. I feel like, especially if you're playing Gal, you don't have to worry too much about your peripherals.
You're not wrong.
Get a smack the keys a little bit.
As long as you have access to your abilities.
Yes.
In the team fight, you're good.
So, that being said, one way that I see this game compositionally, that I see an avenue for China, is through the solo lanes, the side lanes. That Akali can actually, in a longer lane, can take down the GP with ease. So I want to see her actually get enabled a little bit by Olaf. And see, of course, if you see Korea trying to nail down mid lane, look towards the dragons, then go for the picture-perfect dive top side. Didn't work the first time around, but I mean, it will be a lot easier as time goes around.
Yeah, I always think at this point you want to be looking towards more brute force tactics. I mean, like, I get that, yes, it was a 1-for-1 kill, and immediately MXG was like, A, I died, and B, they made a counterplay bot lane. So he's like being conditioned right now. It's like, it's not a good thing, but MLXG, you're MLXG. Just go in there, try it again, and force it open, because we know you can do it. You know, I think that I totally agree. It's a way around it, but there are countermeasures in place. I feel like there's just a countermeasure for every play that China can make right here, coming out of Korea. You're just like, Galio, if he hovers around the mid lane, he's just going to go straight in, he's going to rotate to a lane.
Yeah, and I think that you just have to, if you're China here, understand your weak side of the map. If you're going to be making plays at the top side, if the composition allows for you to do that, then weak side is going to be bottom lane. You're going to be asking Mako and Uzi to actually back away. That time around in the first gank didn't happen. In fact, I didn't think they have the proper wards in the tri-bush to actually make it so they feel safe underneath the tower in a three-man situation. So if that play were to happen again, then of course you'd have to have the necessary defensive vision, or just play it safe and back up to your tier 2 tower.
Now we do have an update. Faker, it appears to be a problem with his headset, but I can see it's on his head right now. So I reckon that by putting 2 and 2 together, it might be fixed.
Wait, that is the worst logic I've ever heard. Just because it's on your head doesn't mean it's working. What?
At the very least, they're testing it and we're going towards a solution. That's what I'm saying.
You know, I'll say this.
What's that?
It's likely comfortable, you know, just having it on your head.
That's true. We've actually used those headsets before. I know we've had some playtest games on stage.
Yep. So I can confirm.
Those things are surprisingly comfortable. Not to have on your head all day, however. I know these are very long days for the players, but they have a lot of games to play. So don't want to have that on your head all day.
I mean, in terms of just hairstyle, trying to keep it all important, you know this very well.
Of course.
You definitely don't want to have it on your head all day.
But it can also benefit you. You know, I'm talking about Coach Stake of Rogue Warriors in the LPL. He's adapted to the headset fully.
It was a weird adaptation he made.
As is Abel. Abel, big adaptation for him.
So, yeah, the fact that he was able to get that working for himself, sure, but no, man, it's not going to work for me.
Just saying, in the hot weather, and let's you take what you get. You know, you'd like improvise, adapt, overcome. Like, if you can do that with a headset, then be my guest.
You probably do it on the Rift too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
It flows over. Everything is one connected thing at the end of the day. It's definitely hot in old Indonesia. It's definitely awesome to be here, though. You know, out on the ground here for Asian Games, the demonstration game. I've watched some of the Arena Valley yesterday. We've got Clash Royale coming up after League of Legends, so a lot of just esports action coming your way.
Yeah, the event is incredible, massive. The fact that you see a lot of excitement, energy out of the people here, so I love it personally. And then, of course, you don't get a lot of opportunities to come out and visit, so Indonesia is a wonderful place. I remember the site being painted as incredibly hot. Sure, I mean, I've been to hot places in the past before, but just being able to walk around the block, get a sight and see of the city. Hopefully, I mean, if you have Indonesia in your eyes, please take the visit to come over. There's some great places here. Great food as well, if you listen to the last interview.
Yes,
the man is correct. That guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, Fear is a man who knows his food.
That's true.
100%. And yeah, we've also got a bunch of fans coming out to us as well. I know there's tickets being sold. So if you're around the area, then definitely hop on by. But the fact, I feel like the Chinese fans, so dedicated. The Korean fans as well. You know, no matter where the team is playing, where the team is, always going to be following around, always going to be shouting "Jayo" in the audience.
Mm-hmm. So it's always nice to see that kind of excitement wherever you go. And I mean, it's not misplaced. You're already seeing the quality of game in this one, the very least. The fact that both teams putting in the preparation, you can already see it with Let Me willing to pick up the Akali top lane. You can see it too much around the world. I know that Zatai locally has been able to, actually it was Flandre that was able to pick it up.
It was, yeah.
So we get to see that coming top side, hopefully trying to nail down the side lane, maybe it's trying to get some flanks. We're already in game, so we get to see the action happen.
Yeah, and here we go, back into game. Pause over and done quickly because headset is all fixed up now. We'll get back into the action. So we're now 17 minutes into this game, 4-4 in kills. And China just winning the last skirmish, but Korea's still ahead in terms of gold. You can see a lot of that coming through from the farm in the mid lane, and of course Gangplank being Gangplank.
So I already love what I see here. The fact that the Rift Herald just pick up the top side of the map. So this is pretty poor for Korea. The fact that they went a little overzealous in the bottom lane and now lose out in pressure in the future play. Because it doesn't matter how the wave's happening in the bottom lane or being pushed out top side with your dual lane. They're sending them to top side. You have to respond to the Rift Herald play. And ordinarily, MLXG would place in mid lane. So you already see him darting straight towards the area. It's going to be difficult for Faker to make a hold on his own. So you're going to have to at least see Score come out and help.
I mean, this is the great thing about this composition, though, from Korea, is because they can all just dogpile onto the mid lane as fast as you like. Abyssal Voice from top side. You're going to have Score probably around the area anyway, because Score is always just 5 steps ahead. And then Keen as well. At the very least, will be able to support Cannon Barrage, if not teleport, since he just have it up. So China will be all of them having to be in the right place at the right time. That being said, you're going to be looking towards some like Sheer to be landing these sleepy trouble bubbles.
Yeah, you already see it's not really too much of an impact on Faker. Faker is way too tanky at this stage of the game, going towards Zhonya's next. So that just makes it a little bit harder for a mid lane dive play to happen. You already made a mention of Abyssal Void, so even though China's been putting a lot of pressure topside to stop them from being able to help out mid lane, you can already just, ulti right toward mid lane to help them out. 3 men already underneath towers, so at the very least, the options are there for Korea.
100%, just constantly being able to react to these plays. China were looking to set something up on top side, and Korea like, not today, sunshine. Push them back into the river, push them down, back into their own jungle from whence they came. Just a bit of a farming frenzy up the top side, securing the Rift Scuffler. I think it'll be pretty nice, actually, if China's looking to make a rotation top side. We're just blocking up another point, another choke point.
Vision, speed, It's great for Korea to be able to nail this one down so they can actually get a good eye of where MLXG is coming. It nails down his route, so he actually has to be deeper in his own jungle to make the decision to either go mid lane or top lane and, you know, just be undetected.
And for now, we're pretty much back to the laning phase. I call this one the Australian lanes. We're actually just swapping the bottom side to top. Squad's going to be finding himself up here. He knows he has vision control since they literally just secured it. He's going to be taking out this control mode, and that's MLXG right there in place. So just both junglers beating each other, matching move for move. Teleport back into topside though from Uzi.
So you can already see that MLXG is fairly dedicated here. Most junglers would either, of course, you could stick top lane, try and brute force it. It's possible. You can already see Zoe pushing out mid lane means that she's actually ready and able to go topside. Or you can then base, help out Let Me, because you know that's an uncontested play. You can either go for a dive, get the Rip Trail throw in the bottom lane, but you know that it's 20 minutes and that Korea can make a play on the Baron. We'll have to see. You can already see. Is he going to follow it up?
I mean, probably. I mean, he's got a ton of damage right now. Keen turning around, pops a cannon barrage, prevents him from going any further, and Scores coming down from the river, looks for the flash as well. Gets the slowdown from the barrel roll, follows up with the ultimate, and he is dead before he lands. Kill over, parlay, kill to Keen.
No escape whatsoever. He tried, but Predator Gragas' man runs at you. He just waddles in your direction. You're like, I have so many dashes, but there ain't no way for me to escape. At the very least, he can make the call towards the top side of the map to actually make the push going. Rip Trail is going to smash into the second pair.
Yep, second charge. Oh, we don't get to see the damage from Shelly, but yeah, even so, that was a kill in the bottom side of the map, and you know, that is a matchup that's, you've got to feel good if you're a Kali. You know, you're itemizing AP, you go for the Sorks, and then Keen is itemizing towards the rest of the AD damage threats on the team. It's like, I could do this, but in the end, it's just a bait. You know, Score's going to be around that corner, and he's going to chase you down.
Yeah, it feels bad. In hindsight, he's going to be looking at it and saying, maybe I should have just went for the all-in because he was just in that area. But he didn't know that he was closed off. And it's only going to be harder now that Trinity Force completed on Keen, even has the Hex Drinker. So just going to be able to survive from a lot of the burst damage that Kali has here. So doing well 20 minutes into the game, and it's only going to get better here for Keen.
Yeah, I mean, that was the window, essentially. He just picked up Hex Drinker, and he just picked up the Caulfield Warhammer right there. It was just a Triforce to his name. So unfortunate for him. MLXG also not really getting involved on the play, has been typically moving towards his duo lane.
Yeah, and we were talking about, you're talking about the items. Let's talk about it all for Korea. The fact that we have 2 items across the board. Zonia is completed by Gallios if he wants to fight. Just the Runan's Hurricane being completed for Ruler, so he's actually in a very good position. A lot of magic resist here from the Gragas. TP being lost down here.
Yeah, MLXG just pulling a bit of a U-turn, but he's going to keep on following. Ragnarok pops and Keen getting chased down, forces the flash, and he's going to be happy with this for now.
It's always a tough call whether you want to complete the teleport because, of course, mid lane's under siege. If you finish it up, you can already see half HP on the tower, that it should just be mid lane tower. He makes the hard choice of sticking mid lane, and with that, of course, GP does have to burn the flash. It's a hard call to make, but at the very least, life is saved bottom lane, and the mid lane tower is safe as well.
Yeah, it's not a kill, it's not a tower, it's not something tangible coming in really for China, so in the end, it did work out for them. And this is really just, you know, if you take a look just stylistically, I think that's the cool thing, actually taking a look at these teams like region-based, because, I mean, yes, you can argue that China, they have 3 players coming out from RNG, but in general, this is a smattering of different top teams coming out from both of these rosters, and then you look at the region stylistically, and I think that Korea, very good at stalling out, you know, losing with grace, I think has always been the term that you would come out of the region, and right here, it's not like they're losing with grace, they're actually just doing very well for themselves with grace.
Yep.
You know, they're just constantly able to stymie these plays.
Slow burning you until it really matters around Baron, because you watch the LCK quite frequently, it does really depend on those few massive team fights that actually come through, just because they're so focused on the setup of the play that they have to think it through. Now, that being said, if you watch the qualifiers, they had Peanut quite a bit of times. So when they had that iteration of the roster, all eyes were on the plays that Peanut was making.
Very different.
Oftentimes, you're right, it is completely different. That he looks ahead, tries to dive quite frequently, and when they had gold funneling in that strategy, they would pick up the Master Yi, they would try and actually go for the dives repeatedly with that spear that they had in their composition. This time around, they have score, so it does slow the game down and forces China to really think out their plays or else they'll lose on the map.
Yeah, and that's the really cool stylistic differences coming out here is because not only is it region-based, but it's also player-based. As you said, Peanut is going to deliver a very different performance and also change the makeup of your team. You know, you're expecting very cerebral play to be reactive. I know reactive always has like a bad connotation to it, but like reactive in a very good way when you look at score. He was constantly just a step ahead of MXG in this game, but then as you said, Peanut is going to be aggressive. You look at the other side, a makeup performance is going to be very different from Ning in the bottom side as well.
Yeah. And honestly, I want to, as you're talking about the players, even hitting on the hunger that the players have here coming into the event is always something to talk about. Because Score coming here made it known that he's been a player who's had a long career and he wants to show something for it. And also, okay, hasn't been able to get the finals victory, so he hasn't had the trophy from his own region. And then coming into this one, he could actually just has the chance of winning it all. Qualified to Worlds with KT, is in the finals of the event, and now here today, of course, could end up winning the gold medal. It's a possibility. So for a career that's so long and nothing has really been shown for it, has the opportunity to just win out.
To just cash in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really rewarding for him if he can just play up to par for the next few days.
Yeah, it could be jackpot time. I mean, I think very similar stories across the Rift when you look at someone like Uzi. Year of the Dog. I mean, in very real terms. I mean, the amount of titles he's been able to pick up in 1 year compared to the rest of the career, infinitely bigger. Because he's never picked up one before internationally, you know? It's just like huge stuff for Uzi coming out. I mean, the cherry on top would absolutely be winning here at Asian Games.
Always comes down to patience, learning the lessons from years past. I know we have a lot of new players coming out of the Rift. We always talk about Keen, Pina, they're just starting out there. But you get these veteran players that have been here for so long, able to upkeep their personal, their individual skill. So that, you know, the young guns try and aim for your seat, but they're not going to be taking it. But for them to actually get here, have the lessons of how to play as a team, such a team play environment. Of course, this patch is definitely around team fighting quite frequently, so you have to be able to support the adjacent lanes and for the team fights to actually be clean comms, I'd say, have clean comms. That seems to be the name of the game for at least this one.
Can you imagine if we were still in the gold funneling meta as we came into this patch into Asian Games?
God.
What a different tournament it would be. You know, again, that's the interesting thing with League of Legends and many esports is that you can just have an entirely different team just be the alphas, just the top dogs on patch. They're better suited towards the meta, maybe the better adaptation, maybe they're a better team at adapting over time into a long form meta. I mean, that is also a massive deal. And for these teams who have to also adapt to new teammates, I mean, all of these factors go into being a professional player.
True. I love 8.15 just because it doesn't close out the bottom lane from having mages. It doesn't extend the game as you would see from 8.16. So you really get a meta here where you can play your Aries in the bottom lane. Now we've seen in the regions, and we've seen them previously in the games today. Swain as well. If you're IO here, you want to be able to pick up your Swain. So still you can play your things in the bottom lane, which really made you strong throughout the split. Gold falling did get nerfed out, so you really can't go for that one unless if you want to take that risk. And God bless if you do.
Just hearing over from the second and third stages, we just had Vietnam just take their win over Kazakhstan. They'll be going 1-0 so far for themselves. That's Indonesia currently taking on Chinese Taipei. Don't know how that one's going on. I mean, it's still going, so we'll find out the results after that.
I'd love to talk about Vietnam because being 1-1 so far, of course, taking the loss to Korea earlier today.
Yep.
All eyes are going to be on Vietnam because this group is fairly strong. Of course, Vietnam, we know them to be a lot of the players. Of course, the core lineup is literally Evos.
It's literally Evos.
Yes, that went to MSI in the past and had a great performance. So for them, going up against a lot of these teams, you can and probably will slip up to them. So taking the top 2 spots in the group is much more harder than you would expect it to be.
I mean, they are not a blue shot. They're a contender. They will be at this tournament. All right, we're back onto the Rift one more time. Hopefully the peripheral issue got sorted out right there. Now 22 minutes into the game. And it's going to be MXG just sewing up the Dragon, though. We did have a tower fall while all that was happening. And actually, Ruler still pushing in the top side of the map.
Yeah, just an interesting choice here from MLXG to go for the Ocean Dragon bot side. The only way you can actually get the Ocean Dragon and not get contested, lose your life for it, is if the top side play is happening. It is happening, losing a lot of HP on the top lane tower, and just vision as well. Remember, it's 22 minutes into the game, so Korea is in a great spot to actually contest for Baron.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a major loss right there, but Yeah, it's coming off the back of a pause as well, so probably a bit of mixed comms. So Korea definitely made the most of that situation for certain. 4,000 gold ahead, as you said, massive vision on top side. Pretty much lit up like a Christmas tree. And Baron will be a very big thing in the next couple of minutes from now. So Korea are definitely set up for success. Look towards Keen in the bottom side. Continuing to farm up. Playing patient, and it's rewarded him. Look, he's only 10 CS down. He's about to get this minion wave to resolve. So he's probably ahead in gold right now.
Yeah, there we go. Because at this point, you have to be aware Power right behind him. He doesn't want to extend off towards the next wave, which would really be a detriment. Knowing that MLXG was bottom side earlier taking the dragon, there's no telling if he's actually still there because there's no vision in the bottom side area at all for Team Korea. So you can already see that Keen understanding that he's in a pretty dicey position. And if there's going to be a play being made, it's probably going to be made on his head. So understanding that he's in a good spot and doesn't want to lose it.
Roland Core JJ rotating towards this mid lane. Keeping their eye around the river. Will be a catalyst for a team fight Roller with these arrows. Haven't just been shooting them out randomly in this game, looking for a potential pick, or just waiting for the perfect opportunity to nail someone down.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite game, you know. The Zoe Sleepy Trouble Bubble win condition. Throw him out if you can. If you hit somebody, hit him. Smack him on the head.
It's 2018 Thresh, baby.
Make him pay.
For something. Faker pushing forwards though, will not be able to find any purchase on the Ragnarocking Olaf. What a dodge coming out there from Mako. Draws out the arrow as well, and Score cannot find anything. Multiple flashes burned from China though.
Yeah, double flash. They knew that Score was going to look for him, so that's key. That is pivotal for the next fight. Knowing, you know, putting down in the chat that China is not ready for the next fight, won't have the flashes, so it's going to be much easier to actually look for a kill on Uzi if they get the chance to.
China are as slippery as you like. A nice gobble up there from Core JJ as well, making that bubble ineffectual. Tamken's just a great pick right here. I mean, even the bubble's ineffectual. But mid lane siege is still happening, sending out the volley. Instant wave clear on this one. We'll see what China have in the next minion wave, but I mean, he might have to defuse. Right now, just playing this arrow, and Faker is moving towards the top side. He actually might just carry on pushing this wave.
Yeah, so there's no way for China to actually continue to look for this tower, because if they do, that top lane tower has already been primed and ready. Oh, here we go, though. Predator being popped.
Oh, he's locked on.
He's going for it.
He wants it. I mean, Faker low on mana. Was expecting the juke, didn't happen. And Faker will simply walk away from the play.
Best way to get out.
Heck yeah.
Get the morning job.
I mean, didn't even need to pop the ultimate, didn't need to pop a flash or anything. It feels like Korea just playing a lot sharper in this game, to be honest, when you look towards China. A lot of their plays have been very ham-fisted.
Yeah, it's just a classic case of cat and mouse. You push in mid, you already see top lane towers being threatened, and a top lane could get taken down if they tried to. Faker also had the opportunity of looking for a flank play, knowing that that was ready and available for him if the mid lane push kept going. And they had infinite wave clear with the GP having ultimate. The barrels are strong as well, yeah, as the Sheen, as well as the Yomu's Ghost play. So it's just very difficult for China to actually look for a play mid lane if Korea is grouped on top of that tower.
Yeah, it's surprising though, because we haven't seen China even look towards playing around power spikes, you know, and that's just a massive thing for the region in general, especially when you have Uzi on your team. It's like, all right guys, I'm 2 items, I got the Gwyntews, I've got the Storm Races. Had that for a good 6 to 7 minutes now. It didn't look towards making a play, just carried on farming. There was never any proactive play utilizing Uzi.
It's very hard, because if they're trying to look for a play around teamfight, sure, he has the 2-item power spike, so he can actually get both his E and Q evolved. Looking for a dive here. This is their way to get into the game.
They're setting up, and the killer instinct is there. Keen trying to kite backwards, but he is a fast gangplank. This is the day that you almost caught Camjack Keen.
And no way you can touch him. That's actually 3 people bottom lane. So Korea, all focus around mid lane. What's the play here? You're all around Baron. You can start it, but it's giving time for China to actually respond. It's fairly squishy Gragas, so he doesn't want to be the one on top of it. He's gonna blow a blue trinket. Oh, get him!
Oh, he found him on the body slam, and he was stunned when he got out of that portal, but he's still going to be able to dip and dive away from this one. I believe top lane tower just actually fell during the chaos there to Faker on top of that, so Korea is still winning out of these trades.
True, but it wasn't as big of a punish as I'd like it.
Yeah.
If you saw them all hanging around mid lane, they weren't on Baron when 3 people were bot side. Very close, let's go.
Dicing with Beth there, Shie, and it's going to be the arrow connecting onto Mako, but the follow-through is still here from Score. He had the ultimate and the flash available if they wanted to collapse, but Korea, they only go for these 100% percentage plays, man. Like, even if there is a chance of failing, just don't go for them after that bottom lane dive.
Well, they tried. At the very least, Shie contesting the barrel being placed out from GP, so he can follow up. It's a little bit of a slow follow-up, but I think it would have been able to hit. Now we see that
But they're fishing.
they're fishing. They're really looking for it. The control wards will hold on the top side. It's going to be on China to either get a push on mid lane so they can find and contest it. But trying to contest Vision against a Tahm Kench slow, a Gragas body slam, and you know, there's always going to be a Galio following up. He's incredibly dicey. It's going to have to be MLXG. What's the challenger? Let's go.
He wants it, but I mean, Score, he's got a Tahm Kench behind him, and he's Gragas. So it's very difficult to make anything happen, though landing all the skill shots here. Someone's going to have to stand in front of him, give him the axe, and we have another pause. I feel you guys, I feel you. 3 pauses in one game.
You know what? Get him to think about the angles a little bit. The wave's coming through. Make the Zoe. Get the paper out. Start doing some math.
Bring out the protractor. Yeah. You just set up that geometry, man. He's got plenty of time.
How am I going to curve the ball around 2 members?
I don't know.
Call the developers.
What's that other thing used in trigonometry? Compass?
Oh,
yeah. I just heard from production. Apparently there is problems on stage with the connectivity.
Lag on LAN, classic case.
Lag on LAN.
That's one
The meme is real.
Yep, 100%.
But obviously a massive deal. Like a League of Legends. We all know it. We all play League of Legends. We most of us do. But anyway, all of us play video games. And lag on any video game is a bad thing.
So if you have the opportunity to stop it,
Then
yell
you
at
probably
somebody,
should.
stop it.
Yeah.
So
It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
So you get into one of these positions where, at the very least, when you have these pauses, you can't talk to people around you, but you can think about it. Personally, think about your own role. What can you do to actually, positively impact the game for your team? A lot of the times, funny enough, with how linear the game is to push mid. Because that's the one way you can actually try and contest around Baron in this instance. With how many blue trinkets have been being thrown into the pit. Throw too many, you give an opportunity for Team Korea in this instance to actually just go for a rush. And if you try and play into it, you have so many engage opportunities that Mako, at this point in the game, is actually fairly squishy. Throw a body slam at him, cast him to your team, he's dead. So then you have no opportunity to place any more wards, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Yep. And then you also wonder, it's just like, how hive mind is this team? How on the same page are they from practice? Because we were talking about this earlier, China being taken this very seriously. Coach Aaron behind them, and Coach Zeph are actually behind Korea.
Yep.
But Aaron, he's brought forth a lot of champions, a lot of world contending teams. And I know it's been a short time for China, but still, of course, in the domestic region, LPL is still ongoing for them. And trying to keep them up during all of this happening, tough. But, I mean, what we've seen so far, able to deal with the best of them.
Always comes down to, with the time that you have available, of course, as you mentioned, with the split happening, with the playoffs happening in Korea, that with your practice, very limited, what are you as a team? What is your identity? For Team China, a lot of times you say, well, I mean, it makes it easier that a lot of these members are just from RNG. Of course, Ming played in the qualifiers. So this time around with Mako added, a lot of the times it's team fight. Play around team fighting, play around your AD carry front to back, and maybe that's how you end up winning it for yourself. It's Korea, then it's around the individual players. You have a carry top laner for Key, so it's possible to actually play around his carry potential. In this game, they're going to try and match team fight strength, and they've been doing a fine job at it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're looking at any part of that draft, it was like, maybe you can exploit that gangplank, right? Like, you have an Akali into a gangplank right here, and the gangplank, I mean, you can make serious damage in the early game. I mean, there was an attempt, but it was a 1-for-1 trade, and the gangplank actually comes out laning phase fine. In fact, now he's ahead in gold. So if there was any weak point at all from Korea, it's not going to happen from the draft now. It's only going to happen from the players themselves. Yeah.
You know me, Mr. Red.
Yeah, of course.
I hate Galio. I hate Galio just simply because.
Why do you hate Galio, Raz?
I mean, you made a mention of it. I'm gonna vent. This is the Raz venting session, because a lot of times you're like, yeah, let's actually play towards the top side. Let's try and dive the GP. Oh, there's a massive circle being placed around the top lane tower. I think we gotta escape. Vamos, we gotta go. That happens so often. A lot of times it's because you can't push the Galio out of his own lane because he's gone towards the aftershock. This 70 free resistances. You're like, oh well, we can't really gank that.
Yep.
And you're trying to make players around him, and he makes a choice either to play aggressive. Of course, if there's a dive happening around Yagus is making the play bottom lane, then he joins in on that party. Or if this, you want to extend the game, you want to let your Ashe get to level 6. I mean, get items as is. If you want GP to get items and be defended underneath his tower, and a lot of times it plays control wards around mid lane, hide in bushes. You can't make the play top lane.
I don't bush even.
Yes, I was not trying to do that purposely, but then you can just set the ultimate top side and look for a defensive play, and so it's so hard to play around the pressure that Galio has globally.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an unmovable object as well. And like, that, again, we were talking about the counter pick. I mean, she had it right here. The fact that they were flexing the Akali to top lane, which I personally was not expecting. I don't know if Korea were necessarily, but the Galio comes in, it's just like Galio into Akali, fantastic. But then you have the Zoe coming through, and it's just like, okay, maybe this is a way to open up the mid lane, the fact that we have this camp pick coming through. Again, didn't happen, unmovable object. He didn't manage to run to the side lanes, Galio could follow, so he was like, okay, I guess I'll just farm it out. Galio ended the laning phase with 10 CS advantage. Yep. So the Zoe managed to get nothing done. The rest of Zoe's existence is just being stymied by a Tam Kench just walks up, gobbles a target, and it's just like, now what?
Yeah. Usually when you see these kind of swaps in pick ban, you would try and get a favorable matchup like a Fiora into the mid lane. We've seen some Fiora Galio throughout the year, that is. We've seen some Darius in the mid lane versus the Galio pick. You're trying to hard, demolish it in the lane with bruisers. It's a possibility for you. But the fact that they've gone towards the Zoe here, it's because they wanted to give Xie, specifically Zoe, that he's been so strong with it personally that he feels comfortable with it personally. And if you're in a best of one scenario, then you want to give what your players are comfortable with the exception, of course, with the Akali top lane. So there's a bit of experimentation here, experimentation top side, comfortable on the bottom side of the map. Makes a lot of sense. You only have the limited games to play. You're in the Korean side of things, that looking down this is very comfortable for you in front and back. I mean, the fact that Faker in his career is actually, or at least in the year, has been known for his Yasuo, his Galio, and then I guess if you can play the regular League of Legends, but a lot of times teams just end up banning 2 of them because that's when he's been the most effective one on those champions.
And again, it's also a historical pick for him. At the same time, Xie, shared champion pool, Galio has been a big one for him, Zoe at the same time. And then if you go even further back, and we think back to the old matches of Xie versus Faker, because again, not the first time these guys are going up against each other. I think of the Lucian that came out of Xie, looking for those solo kills on Faker. I remember that specific one on the mid lane tower, getting that solo kill down onto Faker. So these guys, I mean, you put them in a comfortable position, and it could literally go either way, But Xie can step up to the best of them, including the unkillable Demon King in a mid lane. I guess kill him now.
I mean, I guess he's trying to go for the unkillable just because they're going to.
If he's going Galio, I mean, 100% is going to be unkillable. He's not going to die lane basically. So.
That's a good call. Yeah. But of course, playing supportively so he can actually enable Ruler in this instance, or top lane pick, because Keen is actually just on fire for the year. So if you light a lamp for him so he can actually lead the way, great job. I just think they're in such a great position that if I were to give odds here in the state of game that we're in currently, I would say 80% chance that Korea is going to be at least taking this, just because they have great stance on Baron, and they're going to be playing fishing for a little bit. They're actually, even if they start on Baron, I think they're tanky enough to try and burn through it. I think it's possible. They have Blade of the King, I think, on the bot side, that they can actually burn through it. So they have that threat. They have engaged. We talked about it for so long, so that point is already assured. The only way that China ends up taking it is if they see a mistake being made on the opposite side of the map from GP, or if they push mid and there's an opening because Korea then leaves their inner tower just wide open for picking, so they actually have to take the long way around. So there's 2 of those ways that I want to see China actually go for.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing in this matchup though, is because China hasn't been really trying to open up advantage for themselves. I mean, the one massive advantage they got was in the bottom side, and that was a massive overextend coming out from Korea. And if I'm likening this to any team, it's almost like I'm watching EDG on stage, which is curious, right? Because you've got Aaron right behind him. It's almost like the fingerprints of Aaron is on this team. He somehow managed to craft an EDG out of essentially RNG.
Sure. I think it's always to a point, at least with the EDG compositions, they have a push potential on these lanes. In this case, that they didn't really give themselves an opportunity to have push in bottom lane, in mid lane, I would say. There were times where it was bouncing back and forth, but for them, they just didn't give them an ample win condition other than team fighting, which is why for me, sure, there's that Aaron-esque composition, but it feels very much an RNG based around team fighting and trying to get flanked. So that's going to be what's interesting to me. I would love to see, because we've gone through so many matchups here, what the score does immediately next. Because we talked about compositionally, but the fact that they were able to blow Flash three members on the top side of the map, and that Drags didn't even have to use his own flash. In fact, he's holding on to the next play that ends up happening, that they can actually look for anyone. Last time they were trying to pick up the Rakan, so Rakan did a good enough job to get him out of there. But that's a very real play that they can look for next time.
I'm trying to think what this Korean team reminds me of, because we've got 4 different teams on this Korean roster. We've got Genji, we've got Afrika, we've got KT on the SKT. So we've got a bunch of different teams. So of course, I mean, I'm not going to call it a Frankenstein monster, but it's like there are many more teams and many more names involved in this one. I'm just like, what will I compare this to? Because I know even with Peanut, again, a different makeup of the team, but then with Score, I mean, so far it's been very methodical. I mean, there's been like one mishap, and that's essentially been it. I feel like everything else has been very solid from this team.
I would say it's very KTS, just because, I mean, Smeb on the top side of the map, in terms of Smeb versus Kings, very likable, and that they just go for carry top side quite frequently. They actually look for mid lane being the spine of the team, being a little bit more roam focused, so it makes sense in that same instance. So there we have it. I mean, that's what we're going to be looking for.
Yes, indeed. We still have technical issues on stage, folks. It does appear to be an internet connectivity problem, so we are going to take a short 3-minute break while we try and figure out what the problem is and get back to you as soon as possible. So we're going to take a short one. Hopefully we'll be back soon.
BNK48 สัปดาห์นี้พบกับเรื่องสุดหลอนจากประสบการณ์จริง
แล้วเราก็แบบหันไปมองตรงกำแพงเฮ้ยเห็นเงาใครอ่ะเราก็เลยเล่นโยกตัวแต่เงาอ่ะมันไม่โยกตามหนู
และภารกิจท้าทายความมืด
จ้องมองที่กระจกและเช็ดหน้าครับ
นัดเพื่อนมาให้ครบพบนักร้องหนุ่มเสียงนุ่มแหนมรณเดชเมื่อไรก็เจอเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในทุกนาทีต่อจากนี้ที่อยู่ตรงนี้
รอคอยซุปตาคนนี้มานานเหลือเกินคุณชอบเพลงนี้อยากกินแหนมคุณเขาเจอแต่แหนมตุ้มจิ๋วนะครับผมวันนี้เจอแหนมแบบเต็มเลย
ครับใหญ่ด้วยครับ
ใหญ่ไม่กลัวกลัวเปรี้ยว
หาพร้อมกันหน้าทีวีพุธนี้ 20:05 นาที
วันเด็กเนี่ยเขาให้ไปดูรถถังแต่วันหลังเนี่ยให้พาไปดูรถพี่ครับ
เข้าพรรษาให้ไปไหว้พระเพราะเราคบกับพี่มาเดี๋ยวพี่พาไปไหว้แม่ลูก
การต่อสู้ที่จะมาช่วงชิงความเป็นหนึ่งในสงครามจังเกิลวอร์รอบไฟนอลกับการฟาดฟัน
วันนี้กระต่ายป่ากลับบ้านไงครับแหมปากดี
เชื่อเฉือน
ถ้าร้อนกันมากเรื่องเลี้ยงลูกกับทีหลังโทรมายืมกูตรงๆก็ได้ไม่ต้องมาแข่งให้เหนื่อยรู้ป่ะ
ทุ่มสุดตัว
ที่จะรัก
และแขกรับเชิญสุดพิเศษที่จะมาฟิชเจอริงกับ2หน้ากากฝากความคิดของฉันเอาไว้อยู่ในเธอ
ผมเพิ่งมาเลยนะผมไม่รู้ว่าเขาคือใครมาก่อนเสียงเขาบังคับได้ตามใจจริงๆนะฮะนี่คือมืออาชีพจริง
ๆและคนที่ได้เป็นแชมป์ของจังเกิลวอร์คือหน้ากาก
ร่วมลุ้นไปพร้อมกันพฤหัสบดีที่30 สิงหาคมนี้ 20:05 นาทีเป็นต้นไป
ความสนุกของจำปวดหน้าจอสัปดาห์นี้
เสด็จพ่อสีแง่แก่เหลือแต่เสด็จแม่ที่รักใครค่ะอุ้มชูมาแต่เยาว์สรรหาให้เราทุกสิ่งไปค่ะแต่ลูกอยากอยู่กับแม่กูร้องอะไร
วันอาทิตย์ที่ 2 กันยายนเวลาดี 4 โมงเย็น
โอ้ยเป็นแฟนบอกกัดกี่ปีเนี่ยปีที่3แล้วครับ3 ปีนะแต่งเมื่อไหร่
ดูกันไปก่อนพี่
ดูไปก่อน
อยากเป็นวัยรุ่นกันอยู่ยังไม่อยากแก่
ไม่อย่าใช้วิธีเหมือนแจ๊ดทำไมแจ๊ดชกให้จุกแล้วก็พาหนีเลย
ต่อยท้องลากเลย
ไอ้แจงเป็นคนต่อยแจ๊ด
เขาโดน
จะลากแจ๊ดพูดเลย
เจอกันวันอาทิตย์บ่ายโมงครึ่ง
Victory BNK 48 สัปดาห์นี้พบกับเรื่องสุดหลอนจากประสบการณ์จริง
แล้วเราก็แบบหันไปมองตรงกำแพงเฮ้ยเห็นเงาใครอ่ะ
The group of death, I might say.
It's always fun watching this one because obviously people look at this one and say, you know what, two of the teams to watch is Republic of China and of course Korea. So they look at this one, it's like, well, who's going to be number 1, number 2? And sure, Vietnam ended up losing to Korea, but it's going to be, at the very least, I think tomorrow, going to be Vietnam versus China. Yes. And that one is such a good matchup that you have to keep your eyes on Ejin and Warzone in that one because those two members are actually very distinct. And I feel like if you're supposed to cut into any of the strategies of People's Republic of China, it's going to be an MLXG and CA because obviously they have members of the team. It's actually usually been MLXG and Xiaohu. So throw CA in the bunch. Synergy should be on Vietnam's side.
Yeah.
And Warzone is an incredibly competent player. In fact, shares the champion pool a little bit with CA, bringing out the Cassiopeia. So that's just a leap in towards tomorrow. I would love to see that match here today. So yeah. Once that happens, eyes on that one. That should be the decider of the game.
I mean, it's worth thinking about because I think that, like, for me, I think there's a very good chance Vietnam will take second place. And it's just a feeling.
All right.
Look at this guy. It's just a feeling in my bones, folks.
Stop it.
I mean, like, if you're just talking about Synergy straight up, it's EVOS. You know, EVOS are taking to the Asian Games stage. And if you're looking at Synergy and just like when you have such a small amount of time to get a team together and make them just a cohesive lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a major boon for you. I mean, you don't even need to think about it going into the qualifiers. I mean, smashed it. And remember, qualifiers was a 3-way tie between Korea, China, and Vietnam. And it's not even like there was a big difference between the teams.
Korea, China, and it was actually the Chinese Taipei. So
Chinese Taipei, of course, yeah. Vietnam coming out of a completely different bracket.
Out to Southeast Asia. And for them, they're an incredibly bloody team. So actually, if you look towards Vietnam, that as a region, you can already see that this team was carved based off that regional play. They're going up against China regionally. I mean, both these teams are incredibly bloody, want to look for team fights. So they actually sync up very well. If it comes down to player skill, then it's going to be for me, Ejin versus MLXG. So, I mean, that's all I was talking about. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Of course, of course. It's worth looking forward though, because again, this is a double round robin coming into our group stage. It's all best of ones as well. So I think if there's any way that you're going to be picking up wins, it's by striking hard and striking fast, to be honest. I mean, like, Korea always going to come in with a slightly different strategy. Right here, they choose actually to run score over Peanut, which I think is much slower than if you're looking at like a Peanut game. But again, you do want to go hard, and I think for a lot of these teams, especially Kazakhstan sitting in the same group as that, you probably do want to just come with a couple weird picks, you know, just come with something a little unconventional, and just, again, it's a best of one. The crazy upsets can happen. We've seen it before in every single stage, even the big stage of the World International Tournament.
Yeah, and I think that bringing in scores specifically is great just for getting a grasp of the meta. Bringing in Peanut during the qualifiers is nice just because he's a great carry jungler. you want to be able to put a lot of the gold in his basket. So having him just carry the load on that one makes a lot of sense in that meta, but bringing in, of course, now a much more linear team fight meta. AD carries are coming back, so you can see Ruler really starting to strive off his Ashe picks. Maybe he picks up Ezreal as the tournament goes on, but we're not seeing major bottom laners. We're not seeing gold funneling at all. So that just makes it so score style of jungling, of being invade heavy, being counter gank heavy, is a lot more viable now. It makes a lot more sense because there are going to be times where you actually break enemy jungle's ankle that you can now own the top side of the map completely.
Yeah, and again, if you're looking at this matchup specifically, that's exactly what happens versus MLXG. You know, MLXG likes to gank lanes, he likes to get ahead, and what happens? Scores just eye to eye with him. Olaf against Dragonslave. You want to do anything? Nope. Not today. Not anywhere in the early game, not anywhere in the mid game. You can't do anything, and that was a major problem because MNXG is usually the catalyst for the early game of the mid game, and for many of whatever Chinese team he's playing on to accelerate themselves into the mid game and then smash a team fight. Yeah. But we haven't really seen that. We've just seen very airtight performances coming out of this Korean squad.
And thankfully for MLXG in this game, he went towards the Righteous Glory, so he's not going over towards his usual Black Cleaver build. Makes sense with how long this game is being extended, so he actually has to be the frontliner for his squad. Walking up forward, he cannot get smashed as you would expect. So good decision from him. We can see later on as the game goes on that if he can actually play, his role changes a little bit from dive focused in the early game to just like, hey, look at me. Not just try and just as much damage to me as possible. Try and expend your Galio taunt on me so I can press ulti. Just expend a lot of resources to allow the rest of the squad, especially the Akali, to get an opportunity to dive in the back. That's his role from this point forward.
The IRL taunt. You know, he doesn't have an in-game taunt, but he can be annoying enough that it will make people use summoners on him. So that's essentially the goal, yeah. I mean, it looks like he's going for the Black Cleaver. I mean, this is essentially what MLXG does all the time, but it looked like he was building towards the Black Cleaver towards the mid-game. Saw the makings of it come out, so I'm expecting it. It's also MLXG, so it's a fair shout, to be honest. But yeah, expecting that one. But again, we can only apologize for the delays that we've had in this match. But I know this is the one that everyone's going to be wanting to watch as well, China versus Korea. But yeah, we just have a couple tech issues on stage.
Yeah, you gotta expect the run back, which I love. A lot of the times, if you look towards the group stage, you look towards the format, best of one round robin, you're like, all right, but is there gonna be an adaptation? Are we gonna get a round 2? Yes, we are, for tomorrow's games. So eyes on towards that one, because with how hectic this game has gone on, for how it feels like Korea really had a number in the pick ban phase, that no matter how this game turns out, the data has been done. Go into tomorrow and the pick ban's going to be a lot more linear, that you might end up seeing the Galio being banned if you're going to try for such a heavy dive composition and you don't want to get easily scouted out like that.
Yeah, actually, do you think that the Galio was a major spanner in the works for this team? You know, because they saw it come out and it's just like, all right, well, let's flex the Akali to the top lane and then put Xie on a comfortable pick. And he was behind the lane. And it's just like got completely neutralized. So I actually think that, again, we were talking about Faker earlier, and it's like, what has this champion pool been? Like, for maybe the last like 2 splits, it's been Galio and Yasuo. And yes, he's played some other meta picks, but I mean, why just take it away?
Yeah. And
that's on blue side.
The reason why it's been so strong for him when he's been with SKT, it's either support your team fight composition, so your AD carry can actually fly, and Bang is an incredible player in that instance, you can actually do that. Or you can try and put as much gold on towards the Yasuo, put him in side lanes, and it's just let Faker fly. So in this instance, we're seeing him on the Galio pick. It's working really well for the composition that he can play safe and actually help his team extend the game. But as the tournament goes on, you'd expect to get better.
Yeah, 100%. But I think we then start to look at just China in general. It's just like, I want to see Uzi carry a game. You know, like Uzi's the type of player you put onto the Rift. Same with Faker as well. And it's just like, sometimes just win a game for you. You know, you put him on like a Kai'Sa. It's just like, today's going to be a Vayne game, I'm just going to win this one. You know what I mean? Like, he's the type of player who would just do that. And he's having one of those years as well. Like, this is, if this is anything, the year of the dog, year of the Uzi right now. You know, he's popped off in multiple performances. And again, I think that like last week's been a couple struggles for him, at least on RNG. I think RNG's been all over the place if you're watching the LPL. But as a player, Uzi is just consistently solid throughout 2018.
Yeah, and if you look towards what he's building currently in the game, he's actually going straight for the crit immediately afterwards, getting a 2 items. So
Good 2s and Storm Razors.
Exactly. So if you look towards him building it up look towards the Infinity Edge. That's going to be a point in which he's actually wanting to pick up the fights because it's going to be much easier for him to shred through the front line. It's great at this point looking for him to shred through the Galio because once he's able to shred through Galio, it's actually much easier for the competition. But they only have to look towards Galio. Gragas that's built AP earlier on, so sure he's got AP and then magic resist, so it's actually going to be easier to deal with the Gragas as the game goes on. It's a GP, so it's actually going to be all on the barrels to actually create the space for Korean side the moment Uzi gets his items. So if they can extend the game much longer than the Korean team has, then it's going to be great for Uzi. But currently, they got him in a bit of a hole.
Bit of a stranglehold.
Yeah, you're like, all right, you got this Baron on you. You're either going to contest the Baron or lose the Baron, and then they can find themselves on opposite ends. You already see Faker going on side lane immediately. He has a Baron buff for him. He's not going to be leading it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a problem, the fact that we came out of that last pause, and MLX2 was just on Ocean Dragon, and Faker was like, well, I guess I'll take your tower and ward your entire top jungle as Baron spawning. It's like, okay, fantastic, we'll take it. I'm also looking at the rest of the tournament, though, thinking about who's going to be taking the top 2 spots, because, yeah, I feel like it definitely feels like a 3-horse race coming out of that second group. We've got Korea, China, and of course Vietnam coming up behind them. But then you've got Chinese Taipei on the other side. You know, we were just talking about the fact that they were in the group, in the qualifiers with Korea and China. You're expecting them to take the number 1 slot, but from there, the stage is wide open.
Yeah, the fact that we got Chinese Taipei in the opposite end, and the fact that Saudi Arabia actually played so well, at the very least in the laning phase, that in the laning phase they can actually trip you up a little bit. So if they end up going into a best-of-3 situation that'll happen in the end of day 2, that it's going to be really fun to see how they can actually adapt as the time goes on. If they can adapt from game 1 to game 2 and still hold strength around fear, then I think they're in a good position. It just depends who they end up matching up against, because being in the opposite group of Vietnam, China, and Korea is very daunting.
Yeah, for sure. And then you're starting to think of like stylistically where they will be able to match up against these guys. But I think that for a lot of these regions with the expectations low, there's a lot to prove here, you know, in this tournament. And I think that you can prove a lot. I actually think that performance there on stage, if you're one of like the 4 hopefuls, you're looking at the very top right now, you're probably looking at me like, well, maybe it's not so easy to take the crown after all, right? Like if Fear just randomly pops up in the game, he's the type of player who, I said it during the game itself, he's the type of player who plays with bravado, right? He gets ahead early game, he will continue to start snowballing. He's not a player who will sit down and just like, well, we hit mid-game and we're behind, so let's just sit back. No, he'll just keep going in on you. And sometimes just brute force strength is, that I've learned from Rogue Warriors in the RPL, sometimes just works for you.
You just need the confidence. And every time we see an international play for League of Legends, confidence is what ends up ruling the day. You see games like Reams internationally, Albion, Luna internationally. There are a lot of names that just throw at you, and how they end up picking up games in a best-of-1 group stage scenario is through just saying, yeah, we got an early game lead. We're going to try and accelerate it as a team. Yeah. Look for dives bottom lane, look for dives mid. That's honestly a lot of the times the reason why Vietnamese teams excel so much is because if they end up getting the early game lead, they group in as a squad and they try and end it early, which I think is definitely a viable way to play. And so if you play the hectic style, and if there's not a lot of footage on how you play regionally, then you're good to go. And at the very least in the group stage, when there's no data on you.
Yeah, I mean, I was having this conversation with Clement, you know, in that other game, and it's just like, absolutely. Like, if you can hide your hand for as long as possible, and you just happen to have like a crazy pick just to pull out, and that you've practiced for such a long time, it's like, no one's gonna know. I mean, the fact that I'm hearing that we have multiple top lane Olaf players, and I'm just like, heck yeah, I mean, sign me up, that's my cup of tea right there, you know, but like, there could be other picks that we just don't know about. I mean, the fact that we just saw a Kali flex to the top side, a Kali into the mid lane, like, all these things can fly forwards, and you just don't know about it.
That's why I like having these long pauses when we get into the actual events themselves. If you look towards the rest of the globe, playoffs are already happening, so you get in the best of 5 situation. You realize
pauses as in taking this event, not pauses as in the factor in.
Of course. And so you get to see, like, for instance, saying, "Oh, Senkux, I'm gonna bring out the Twisted Fate." You're like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? You're like, it's like, oh, we're getting the Quinn top lane from Keen. You're like, all right, like, okay, nice. It's nice to know that you play that. You have anything else that you have to tell us? Like, and so it's always fun because you know you're in a best of 5 scenario. You have that one pick that you actually want to show, and you usually show it in game 1, in the best of 1, saying, will the strategy slip up the best team here? And if it doesn't, then we can go back to our usual play style. But it's always a game around who's your supportive staff, what your coach is telling you, what's your game plan going into game 1. And it should be something you throw out immediately in day 1. Because then if you go into the rest of the group, you at least have the high you run on. you're not like 0-2. You have to claw your way back up.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just like, especially in tournaments like this, it's so difficult to do research on a lot of these players and a lot of these teams because they come in from completely different places. It's like, it's not like you have to declare your picks at the door, you know? There's no security checks like, what do you got in the back, sir? Is that a... Is that coming into the jungle, sir? It's like, no, you can just hide that. You can just walk in. It's totally fine. And like, that's a big problem, you know? It's just like, when you look at Kazakhstan, for example, their coach is Kondi-san. I don't know if you remember that game, but I used to be back in Europe, back in the amateur scene. Go back all the way to 2014. It was a mouse sport. I don't know if anyone even remembers that name. Yeah. But this guy's been around the scene for a long, long time. He played on Team Equality for a little bit as well, and then, of course, Polish player, and now the coach of Team Kazakhstan. And it's just like, these players, they're going to have stuff from the grimy old days of 2004. You don't even know what's going on. It could be Ramis. Like, who knows? You know, there's all these, like, throwback picks and, like, throwback strategies, and just the experience alone is super cool to see this impact teams from an entirely different country.
Yeah. So even just, like, of course, the coach comes in between qualifying for the event, playing in the event, it always comes down to what are you actually going to be showing in day one, right? A lot of times you're like, okay, I know that we have a lot of problems on the team, that you're going to be maybe going up against China in day one, or just like a lot of the time you're just going up against, at very least, professional players that's played in leagues, much like Indonesia. And so a lot of times the strategy that you come out is like, okay, we know that we're good players and we know we can actually control the first 10 minutes of the game. Let's throw something in. That's why I know that Clement is excited for a lot of the strategies coming through, at the very least in Pick Ban.
Oh, he's a man after my own heart. He's a top lane main. You know, we're all about that. You know, if we were casting this one, you don't hear about the top lane. You wouldn't even know that mid lane existed. You know what I mean? Yeah. But lucky you've got Raz, you know, so he can only talk about the jungle. So.
I'm just saying, whenever I have to deal with you guys in comms and games, it's upsetting.
That's fair. I mean, you've got to deal with me signaling more than Clement, because unless he turns to play-by-play world, in which you'd just be like, it's a second pulse, all right? I guess this is my life now.
That's true. So you'd be able to bring out the experience of like, I understand this top lane. It doesn't matter how many times they ping out the fact that it's a dive happening. He's gonna die because he's a confident.
He's gonna go in. That's why I loved watching Fake Friend earlier today. It's just like, it's my type of guy. Sign me up. Yeah.
I know his style.
Push lane, all teleports in lane. There's nothing else. What's a team? I don't know. All I know is the 3 towers, the inhibitor, and the nexus. Yep. That's all I've ever known.
And I know that those top laners exist, so being able to play around that style is something else. And so, what I like, and I'm going to immediately segue that to Keen because it makes sense.
Yeah.
For Keen as a player.
He's a top laner.
Yes. Yes, he is. And as a top laner that can play carries, and Rift Route has gone towards the Darius and has challenged these 3v1 situations. And so, when these 3v1 situations happen, he comes out ahead because he calculates it very well. We already saw a play where he got dive bottom lane, and even though a play didn't happen around Baron, he was like, all right, well, at the very least I survived because I understood that I was going to be a situation that I gave my team. They didn't make the best out of it, but I still didn't die, so I did my role.
Yeah, I think Keen's just a super interesting player. We saw him back at Rift Rivals. I think he's just had a fantastic year, and I think that, I mean, Aeon carries a B. If you just need him to be safe on a carry, he'll do that too. You know, they stuck him on a gangplank, and it's like, all right, well, you're probably going to be laning into an Akali, so best of luck, Godspeed. And he crushed that matchup. I think he just absolutely fantastically, even in the bottom lane, just straight up baited the Akali. I mean, let me just flew right into that mouse trap.
Yeah, I love the fact that how well he's been playing around scores, pressure. Bottom lane, you're mentioning the fact that he played around and baited the Akali. So I just like the fact that just based off that bottom lane fight alone, they were able to get the kill on towards the Akali. So good job.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at the rankings so far in the tournaments and see how the teams are shaping up. Because of course this is main stage. We have lots of action happening on the second and third stage. You can see that the People's Republic of China currently 1-0 in Group A. Korea. Alongside them, 1-0, of course, playing behind us right now, but currently in pause. And Vietnam, 1-1. Right behind them is Kazakhstan, currently at 0-2.
So very easily, just make the point out there that this is going to be the decider of who takes first place at the very least in day one.
Yeah, and then you can take a look at Group B. We've got Saudi Arabia currently 1-0. Chinese Taipei just behind them right now at 1-0, just tied up with them. And Indonesia right behind them, and then Pakistan also at the bottom.
So my take on that group would have been that, you know, Chinese Taipei would take #1, and that #2 would actually be Indonesia. So the fact that they ended up losing to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia really early on is a big shocker, and that they're going to continue it on. I think that, you know, immediately you should expect Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to, at the very least, take #2 in the group. I want to see how that matchup ends up going between them Chinese Taipei, team that actually challenged for first seed up against Korea. So it's going to be fun to see how they end up playing and test it, at the very least fear.
Yeah, I also think that we shouldn't be just sleeping on Pakistan at the same time, because I believe we were casting them in the qualifiers, and your boy Dodoy, he comes out the jungle swing, and that guy's an absolute monster. You know, you just have a game, it's just 13-0, it's like, all right, you know, he's the carry jungler.
Ruthless aggression is definitely the name for Pakistan's game. So when it comes to that team, if we ever get a chance to showcase the game, then you should not sleep in the early game. They're a team that will try and challenge you just off the door. So fun times around that one. I want to see how they end up playing. But in that group alone, it's just tough competition all around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the major problem. I mean, it's just like there is just tough competition straight across the board. We saw that second game today, and that was exceptionally close. And this one, even though we've seen drips and drabs of China versus Korea, this has also been pretty close as well. You know, like if you make a small misstep against China, they'll take an inch, they'll take a mile, and they'll run the marathon at the same time. So it's tough, but it's also tough for the players at the same time. I think the fact that we have a bunch of veterans on stage, you know, people are going to be pretty used to the situation, and there's going to be a lot of players in this tournament who are still relatively new, rookies, if you will, within their own domestic regions. But I think for the most part, we have pretty seasoned players. I mean, if not in the individuals, enough on the team to be able to create stability in these situations.
Yeah, this is usually the time when if you look at the LCK or LPL and you have those pauses, and you're like, it happens. Those times, yeah.
As casters, at the very least, we're used to them.
You're used to them. So as players, you're gonna have to figure it out how to end up playing out the rest of the lanes, because it can really, when you get into these long pauses, and you're like, okay, what was actually happening in the game? What position were we in?
You just forget to remember. It's like, was I even in the game?
The most crucial part about all of that is actually just the timers of flashes, because those are things that you remember top of your head, you put in the chat. But a lot of times, if you come out of the pause, you're like, well, actually, I need to either check the chat or you just completely forget about it. And so Korea's initial advantage of being able to blow those flashes, do they even take advantage? Because, you know, while it was in the forefront of their minds,
it's like, what's that window? 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds?
Yeah. So those are the real questions they're going to have to ask themselves, you know, coming out of the pause.
Yeah.
But that being said, you already made a mention of the veteranship in the lineup, so that should be able to ride them back on track.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like when you look at players as well, like I specifically think of Amazing Jay. You know, for him, like I feel like he is the player you want on the roster if you're in that type of situation, because he's just like the heart and soul of the team, you know? And I think that when you have a player like Uzi, he was just pure passion. You know what I mean? Like he will drag you over that finish line. And I think like behind that, these are the perfect players to put you in a situation.
Yeah, I think Score would really nail that down if you're talking about Korea's version of
that's true.
Ripe stability, that he's the oldest member of the team. He's definitely people that look to in terms of wisdom and calmness. He's definitely calm. Every single time you try and crack him on camera, it's like, all right, do we got him now?
Nope.
10 kills down now? He's like, no, he's actually just completely calm in those situations. So you can't bait him.
Yeah,
you can't
put a couple players like that in the LPL.
Yeah, can't put it based on TMZ. Not possible.
No, but again, it's super important. You know, mentality is a massive part of just esports in general. I mean, obviously we know League of Legends most of all, but we have pretty long games and also pretty long days as well. Like the group stage, for example, is double round robin. That's going to be pretty long for the players. But these guys have been through quite the slog, you know. Like I know for both China and Korea, we both have gauntlets. That's a long run for these players, especially if they come in at the very base. Got your 15 games, then you've got finals, then you've got potential world qualifiers. We're going through that as well. It's a lot of League of Legends to play, and when a game is like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 90 minutes, then it can just go on for a long, long time.
Yeah, they've already gone through 8 to 10 weeks of their own regular season, constant training regimen. So you get onto this stage, and sure, you're a little bit like, all right, get this over with at this point. Let's get it going.
It's like we've proved ourselves yet. We've not got enough wins. Yeah.
But they should be primed and ready to be able to take the pressure that they're being put under. So kudos to them. Good on them in this situation as we find ourselves in a really pressure. Like a lot of the times, you know, you find yourself in a pause, and it's either going to be in the early game or really late on in the late game when people are just basing.
Yeah.
This is a pause that's literally right in the thick of things.
Technically, we've had all of them because we've had 3 forces. So
yeah, but they were rather quick.
Game. Yeah,
they were rather quick. So we're right now in a point where we had a long pause right in the thick of things when you do have to be communicating rapidly about the situation you're in. CA being able to put down the extra ward almost got caught, but that's the desperation that Team China is currently in to actually find themselves on even ground with Korea. So for them to be in that position, getting paused out.
Yeah, and I will say that coming out of that second pause, that Korea adapted just way better than China. You know, it's like it came out and China was like, okay, what are we doing? Ocean Dragon. Meanwhile, Korea's like taking a tower, completely warding topside, lit up like an absolute Christmas tree. Baron's being set up at 23, 24 minutes. It's like fantastic. This is exactly how we want to be primed for this situation.
I specifically love the fact that how Korea losing the bot side fight immediately and the Rift Trail top side, you would expect the game to be blown wide open from China's side. The fact that immediately Score went topside, got the Scuttle Crab pressure, was able to hold the top lane immediately, and in fact made it so Faker felt safe. It was just difficult, honestly, for the Rift Trail to even be put down to the ground. And sure, it finally was, but it was a trade.
Yeah,
it was a trade for a life in the bottom lane. So there we have it. I mean, the fact that they were put in a really tough position, and Korea was still able to claw back and find themselves vision control all up in the top side of the map. So well done to them. Understanding, playing the game slow enough so they at least have a grasp on what the next play should be.
Yeah, still trading up on tempo even when down on tempo. I think it's just super interesting to watch. All right, Raz, I'm going to put you on a hot seat. Who do you think who's your hopeful for Asian Games 2018?
Hopeful?
Yeah, I mean, who's
mind or heart?
Who's gonna? Why not both? Tell me heart first.
I mean, okay. My heart's actually going to be China/Vietnam.
Okay, all right.
My head, 100% Korea.
Yeah.
Because of course, very easily, not only are they playing, I've already cheated because we're seeing them play currently.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so a lot of it was all based on where they're going to be bringing in the jungle position. Is it going to be Peanut? Is it going to be Score? And I thought that Score was the best fit, but we've been seeing a lot more Peanut games in the qualifiers. So then choosing Score with how hot he's actually been playing in the regular season, I think is an incredible call.
Yeah.
And he's also just been backbone of the lineup so far this game. So he's been able to keep a best of one situation even. They were throwing a curveball with the Akali pick when he's able to just deal with it incredibly well. And then if they're in a best of 3 or best of 5 situation, I think they can handle it well.
I think that's, I mean, that's a scary thing right now about the Korean roster is that you can have 2 very different styles and they're both good, right? And it's just like that versatility will go a long way as the tournament progresses, especially into the bracket stage. And also, Korea, you know, very well versed in the long form brackets. On the opposite side, thinking about Vietnam, of course, in everyone's heart, I feel like they almost feel like the eternal underdog, even though they're just like straight legit now.
Yeah, I mean, naturally because they're going up against behemoths. But I remember bringing back when
like the
roster, when they came to MSI, and a lot of times you look at this team, we didn't get to see them really play patches in advance, and they already advanced to the best of 5 setting. They smashed, honestly.
Yeah.
They took down the Turkish lineup, and so for them to actually play that well in that setting, you're like, all right. And they go in towards the main stage of MSI, and that's where the global audience knew that you can't mess with Vietnam, especially their junglers.
They'll mess you up
because you keep taking away the junglers in that region. They'll find new ones to put on that pedestal.
You've got Chinese Taipei as well. A lot of hype behind them.
We're back in it.
Are back in. Heck yeah, let's go. 29 minutes into the game. Faker coming down, making a heroic entrance, and Mako hella dead.
Where is he coming from?
I don't know. He came from off screen.
Everyone just pressed buttons at the same damn time. And you see, oh wait a minute, Tom Kench is going somewhere. Shit, you're done.
He's going on an abyssal voyage. Up, Shie, he's on the run. Run, Forest, run! All right, Faker's got him in his sights. And you're going to have to come back, son. Yeah, that's going to be a colossal smash. Easy kill to Faker.
It literally all happened at the same time. I hope we get a replay on that. But
I hope so,
at the very least, we're going to be seeing the Baron being done. So for how tension, there's a lot of tension around the Baron area, and it all broke right there. So Korea should have an easy Baron day.
Yes, it did. 30 minutes on the clock, and a Baron will be going down to Korea. The setup was good that we saw from the vision. And apparently that just turned into a straight-up win there. Yeah, I wasn't going to comment on that one. It looked like that was coming out from Let Me. But, yeah, he's looking over for those cleanup kills and those full health targets.
So, happened all in one go. Congratulations.
All right, we're going to have to play some CSI here, examine the crime scene.
They didn't even need the Galio ulti because he used it on top of people defensively. So, all right.
Oh, here's the Faker's fine. Actually, he's super fine in this 1 versus 2. Uzi's has to get the heck out of dodge as Maker's now being chased down. Faker, 3 seconds left on the Justice Punch, but we'll be able to... Oh, the dodge coming through from Mako and Uzi. Managed to find a shield on that one, but Mako might be the sacrificial Birdman. No, he's going to be fine on this. Faker takes the final tower shot, reduces the damage from the idol. But, oh man, Spicy
I don't know
or
about
MLXG.
That's not gonna work for
lines
MLXG.
up the shot.
You don't have people here, MLXG. Please. But yeah, so just all eyes on Gragas in that one because he was definitely coming out of flank even through the ultimate. AP Gragas, hell of a drug, going to be able to try and nail down Uzi. Didn't happen, 1 HP to his name. Thank God he was able to get out of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best you could hope for in that situation is, you know, coming out alive. But 31 minutes in Korea have Baron ready to make a power play. And still, there's a gap in my memory. It's like I have, you know, 2-minute amnesia.
Yes.
Where I just don't know what happens in the mini. I don't know what the setup was.
It was a condition, of course. 2-minute amnesia.
That just happens to the best of us.
100%. But it was real. I mean, we saw them getting good pick opportunities on towards Xie. So for them to be able to get a pick on towards Mako on the back end of things is good telling. That being said, 131 is definitely in action. Double teleport here should just make it easy for Korea to now nail down towards the mid lane tower.
I'm unsure, but I feel like emotes are banned in this tournament, which sapped the power from China. You know, they feed off emotes. That's what I've learned.
Nice conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Tinfoil hat off. And for now, Korea looking to set up. They've got their 1-3-1 ready to go. Keenan top side, bottom side being pushed in by Faker. Got score in rotation, and the mid lane slowly being chipped away from by Ruler. He's safe. He's got Tankent behind him. MLXG getting slowed down, volley following through. And it's just a whole lot of nothing that China can do right now. This is a stranglehold.
You can pick your lane here. They're choosing top side as they're now converging on towards the GP. This is what happens. They're even holding the wave a little bit so they can actually do it at the same time. GP. Oh, here we go.
Here is Entrance joining the fray, but that's a stun down. That will be an instant kill onto Uzi. The star player is dead. Double kill over to Ruler. Score into the base, and Xie jumps over outside of his base to escape this onslaught. But that's Core JJ on top of his base. He's going to spit him out. That's going to be another kill. Make that quadra kill for Ruler.
That's a team wipe. Every single member down on China's side. And just like that, game ends. 33 minutes. Korea blasting the People's Republic of China.
Case closed in Spectroplasm. 4-8 coming in for Korea right there, and it almost was anticlimactic in the end, wasn't it, folks? Nexus goes down, and Korea take the win.
All right, 80%, jacked up to 100%. Korea had such a great stranglehold based off of the team composition, strong play around what MLXG was doing, so he had no way to impact these lanes. Made it very difficult for the squad to be able to deal with.
A lot onto that invisible team fight as well.
Yes.
Definitely a large part of the win here for Korea. So you're feeling good, 2-0 now, leading the group in Group A. China now moving to 1-1.
This is how TV shows usually leave it to the audience, to their imagination, how that fight actually happened. How Mako is somehow Mako is in the bottom side of the map. It's up to you guys to figure out how that happened.
There you go, fill in the blanks. Figure it out. Come up with your own story.
That's probably correct.
Not wrong. Well-deserved win going over to Korea. Played it well from start to finish. One small blunder, but it's really about the recovery, and I think that was probably the cleanest recovery I've seen in a long while coming out from the team. It's like, all right, messed up on the bottom side, instantly reset tempo, reset momentum, and China didn't really manage to take the extra mile. They got the inch, but that was essentially it, and that is just a rare sight when you look at any Chinese squad.
Yeah, and 100%, I would say look towards what's about to happen in day 2. Taking a bow, Korea took down the top 2 teams of the group and are set to face Kazakhstan tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
So immediately favorites for the first place here in their group at the very least before they go into the semifinals. Korea's having a great time.
Yeah, massive fan following coming out here as well at Asian Games. You saw it there from the Korean fans coming over all the way from Korea and also China as well. You know, heard a lot of
AS Play รวมความบันเทิงคุณภาพเปิดความสนุกทุกที่ทุกเวลา